Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Fratello Talks. I'm your host Nacho, and today I'm joined by
Thomas
and
Lex.
let's not off the top. Let's save it for the middle part. Okay. Anyway, and we are going to be contemplating complications. I think that's what we're calling this. We're going to be talking about complications.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about our favorites and perhaps some that we don't hold in such high respect.
Yeah.
To put it very lightly. But before we do that, let's get into wrist check. Lex, what is on your wrist? I can see it from here. You could see it from the other room.
It's quite big. But
18.99 millimeters thick.
But
Tell us about it.
Yeah. So it stays under the holy 19 millimeter marker. So that's good.
Just by the skin of its
Yeah, well,
for ice hockey.
yeah,
bezels,
it's the
right?
very, very new Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean world timer in deep black. So it is black and gray. And, well, it's a complicated watch.
It is a complicated watch.
Because it's a world timer. But
Yes.
more on that later.
Probably.
The black is slimming.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Yeah. It looks like 17 millimeters thick.
Yeah. A very wearable 17
Amazing.
millimeters.
Yeah. Cool. There's also a turquoise version.
Yeah,
For those who
I
are,
chose to wear this one.
Yes, it's a little bit more subtle. That's not the,
You said
that's
subtle.
entirely the wrong word
Yeah.
to use there. Cool. Yeah, Thomas,
Yeah.
what is on your wrist?
Well,
You're not
surprise.
complicating things.
No, I'm obviously, as always, wearing my VPC Type 37 HW.
Very nice. Very nice. With the dove gray dial.
Dove Grey Dial, sans complication.
Perfect. Okay. Will you complicate things with VPC later on, Thomas? Will you be giving us a rattrapante, perpetual calendar, sonnerie, grande sonnerie, petite sonnerie
In a dive watch.
in a dive watch?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, that sounds like you're taking a page right out of, I don't know, Ulysse Nardin's book or something. Grande sonnerie plongeur.
No, but well, maybe,
Pour le
but
poisson.
in a very functional way, because VPC is about daily watches, not about horologerie or anything like that. So it's more about keeping it simple but very well executed. So,
But
but
is there a daily complication that would actually fit the VPC philosophy?
Compass bezel. No.
No, but
Sorry.
there could be a GMT.
Well-
could a GMT be?
yeah,
a
it could. But
complication
there's
and-
a practical problem that I'm working with Celita calibers, and they don't make a flyer GMT caliber at the time of recording. So I would want it to be flyer. So that kind of
You can put a Tourbillon in
closes
there.
that. Yeah, but that's not really the VPC way.
We need to talk
So-
about. We need to talk about after the podcast because I saw some things recently. So
Ooh.
I won't give it away here, but
Give it away,
let's talk
give it
after the
away, give
podcast.
it away,
Yeah.
give it
So
away.
I went with a complicated watch. I had to scour the safe here at Fratello HQ, and I found this lovely Nevada Antarctic GMT, which has proper 70s vibes. It's nice and small and. Yeah, it has a real funky looking GMT hand, sort of a checkerboard, black and red checkerboard, and it has an internally rotating 24-hour bezel controlled by the second crown here, and it has I believe a plexiglass crystal, which adds to the sort of vintaginess of that fully polished case, and I kind of like this.
Yeah.
I didn't know we had this in. Must have been here for a while, but yeah, I quite like it. So. Yeah, that's my complication of choice for today's podcast.
I can actually hear that you're doing these videos on a daily basis now.
Yeah,
The way you just sort of like the elevator pitch for a watch. You really got that down.
It's great. It just means that whenever I write a review of a watch, it's just 160 words essentially. So it's I'm saving myself. I'm doing the tweet version of watch reviews, and then I have to do my blues voice into the microphone.
Yeah,
for the
nice.
people. So
works.
yeah, cool. So let's contemplate these complications. Let's start off just by talking about some of the ones that are maybe closer to our hearts.
Maybe explain what is a complication.
Yeah, let's start with that. Yeah, true,
A function other than timekeeping.
Yes, exactly. Anything
and
that
then
is
function is a
Yeah, but then
where it
so
gets
the first
murky.
complication you would see is a date.
A date.
It's a very small complication, but it's nevertheless it's a complication.
Yeah.
So
date.
everything other than displaying the time.
Seconds, minutes, and hours, and arguably seconds is already. You could just have minutes and hours, but seconds doesn't count.
You can also have jumping hours and retrograde hours and what have you, and that's a very complicated way, but it's still.
Yeah. But essentially, that's a good definition. I'd say anything displayed on a watch other than time would be a complication.
Yeah. But for instance, power reserve
is a complication.
Is it a complication?
Yeah, because
it doesn't offer you any.
It does.
Any functional.
It does.
You can't, I'm not
because
going to use my power reserve.
No, but it does. It is the function is that it tells you that you have to wind your watch. Okay. So it is a
because
function.
a date is also not an active thing. It's not a chronograph or something. It's just passively telling you the right. A perpetual calendar is just telling you what day it is and what year it is and what.
I'm convinced.
So we have to divide between passive complications and aggressive complications. Exactly. Like a minute repeater is the prime example of a very aggressive complication.
And I think a power reserve is a passive aggressive complication.
It is a passive
because it tells you, hey man,
why not lazy bugger?
Yeah.
You better wind your watch.
It's about time, man.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Passive. So there's 3 categories.
Wow, this is like I said off the top. It's this one's going to go off the rails.
No.
No, it's good. We're still on track.
We're still on track.
We're masters of the rails. We're rail masters. That's not a complication. So what are some of our favorites now that we've established what they are? What are some of our go-to complications that we personally appreciate?
For me, it's a bit tough. I'm actually in the wrong podcast episode, I think, because I usually prefer
again. Sub in. Done. Come in.
No, but I'm a huge fan of base models. Usually, I tend to prefer. I tend to prefer watches from a design perspective, and then the base model is usually the best.
But can you just pretend you like complications?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. So going from there, like, I'm really not into like haute complication or grand complication or whatever, but I think just a basic chronograph is my preferred.
And that's not even basic, because
that's actually
really,
one of the
really
most complicated ones to make.
To build.
Yeah. But the thing is, I prefer it aesthetically. I like what you can do with the dial, with a chronograph, and I like on sort of really high-end watches, I think those are the prettiest movements. Just a hand-winding caliber chronograph. Those are usually the best looking out of all the complications. So that kind of pushes me there, but I don't really use them. I mean, I have one now, which I'm selling actually. But
don't plug your sales. You can't plug that in.
No. I already closed the deal, so it's already gone by the time this airs. Yeah.
Is that your that's your Speedmaster?
That's my Speedmaster. Yeah, don't let RJ hear it.
Yeah, with the faulty bezel and everything.
Yeah. Faulty bezel. Faulty bezels.
It's rare, man. It's
rare. I don't use
bezel faulty. Sorry, I said faulty bezel. I meant
it's okay.
Bezel
It's
faulty.
good that you got that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you done?
Yeah, so maybe.
Maybe. Okay, perfect.
Anyway, let's leave it at that. I think Lex wants to talk really badly. So
I agree with chronographs. They're interesting, and like you said with base models, though, that's a really interesting point, because it's true that every time I look at a watch like I don't know, like a Royal Oak or a Reverso or something like that, and then he's like, oh, here's the basic model, just a flat dial, time only, a Reverso, even just a monophase, and then it's like, oh, and now this one, you flip it over and it has a chronograph on the back, or it has some sort of crazy function or power reserve. Some of them are charming, but I do kind of agree that base models are kind of a sweet spot. That said, they're typically like you have to then think of watches that exist only as this complicated thing, right? And in a way, you could say also like, well, a Speedmaster with a chronograph function is a complicated watch, and then you have Speedmasters with a moonphase function additionally, which are, I would rather have just the chronograph version. Yeah. So sometimes it's true that overly complicated watches are less appealing in a way, even though there is the aspect of like horological fascination.
I guess the thing that matters is which is the first design for a model, because that's usually the most balanced and the cleanest design. Because if you look at a Breitling Navitimer,
I was thinking of exactly that watch.
If you look at that watch,
a three-hand Navitimer is atrocious.
Yeah, okay.
A three-hand Navitimer.
Oh, three-hand. Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
No, a regular Navitimer is an icon. It's fantastic, but the three-hand.
Just imagine a time-only Speedmaster.
Speedmaster
would be ridiculous.
But
We should Photoshop that and put it up on the screen. I don't know if we'll do that. No, we won't do that. We won't. This is a family-friendly show.
But I would argue, actually, that the 5712 is a better-looking watch than the 5711.
Or you can leave if you want. I mean, no.
Yeah. Wow. I'm going to continue this podcast by myself.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I think there is way more charm in the
You're now officially disqualified
than the 5711.
Okay.
I do think
guys,
so.
leave your thoughts in the comments down below. No, it's fine. This is a safe space.
I think it's fantastic.
But going back to the original question, what's your favorite complication, Lex?
Westminster Grand Sonnery. No, I think no GMT. Flyer GMT. I think that is something. It's still incredibly useful. If you still look at your watch to see the time, then also when you go to another time zone, you will use it for that. So I think that is that's a great practical everyday complication you can use.
For sure. And whether you keep track of time somewhere else while you're at home, or you're keeping track of time at home when you're somewhere else, I think that it's a useful thing. There's a lot of romance involved, right, about travel and the time in which the GMTs, the GMT Master made its debut. It was a lot of this jet set culture of traveling the world, and jet travel was available to the masses, essentially, right? I mean,
and I also think that the GMT Master, the original one, is a better looking watch than the Sub. Although they're close related and everything, I think that upgraded watch with that extra complication and that colorful bezel is just I think it's a better looking watch than the Sub is.
Okay.
So I think and there's another complication I have a soft spot for. That's an alarm. That's also something.
Cricket.
Yeah, like a Cricket or a Memovox. Also, I also really like the story of the alarm watches. When you go to Gégère a couple of years ago, I was there, and they presented that book with their curated vintage watches, and also I like the idea that they made watches you could use to time your parking time, so for the parking meter and everything. I think that's, and of course now everything is in a parking app. But
everything's on your phone.
And everything is on your phone. So, but I do like that quirkiness, and I also like the sound it makes. Strangely enough, I'm not a big fan of minute repeaters, but I think the little...
It feels like the watch is rattling itself apart.
Yeah, exactly, because it's also completely weird to in a micro
this
machine,
very delicate mechanism,
you
have it just...
something that hammers on the case back.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never owned one of these alarm watches. I mean, obviously, as a kid, it was always fun to have your F91W go off, at the worst possible time. That was always a bit of fun. The digital beeping alarm. I think with minute repeaters, it's an interesting point as well. I think that it's a bit. I don't know. Yeah, it's not something I tend to gravitate towards personally either.
I'm incredibly fascinated. I'm fascinated by them from a mechanical standpoint, and the way the companies brands start to they use crystal gongs, sapphire gongs, and the whole that, and then
the resonant mechanisms that they build into the case backs, and
the Gégère has these trebuchet hammers that really have this very delicate touch, like a classically trained pianist. So there's great technique, and it's fascinating, but
it doesn't pass my bar test. I have this mental test where you envision yourself owning that watch, walking into a bar, meeting a couple of your friends, and they say, "Hey, what's that?" And you then have to explain and show them what you're wearing, and then you imagine how it makes you feel. And whenever I imagine standing in a bar and going like, "Listen to this,"
no, they can't hear it.
Well, even if they can,
like, what?
It would make me feel like such a douche. I mean, come on.
What I find
it's such a party trick.
I like where it came from. Yeah. It was dark. You can't see the time. Superluminova and tritium was not invented yet, so you have to sound the time. I like that. What I then don't like is sorry, Audemars Piguet, they make these like boombox minute repeaters now, where they have this whole sound lab. I forgot the accurate name, where they make it extra loud.
Right.
So you probably can show your friends at the bar that you're wearing a very expensive and complicated watch, while it is a very more or less private thing, because it has to be just loud enough for you to hear, but silent or quiet enough for your neighbor not to be disturbed during the opera.
I don't mean to sort of throw this at you to try and trick you, but was it the invention because of dark environments where you could otherwise not read the time, or was it much more like people had clocks at home that would do that would sound the time out with gongs and whatever? Like I'm picturing like the typical grandfather clock that has chimes and it tells you the time. And the whole point is you can't have it with you in every room of your house, but you can hear it from the other room, and you can maybe then go, oh, okay, yeah, it's 3:15 or whatever. And then meanwhile they sort of thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if
of course it comes originally from clocks, and then they probably thought we can make it smaller, and then we can make it practical for people to also still hear the time at the opera.
But the key thing is, it's one of those things that you dive into it and it's really cool, obviously.
It's mechanically
fascinating.
Yeah.
And then you convince yourself that it's cool.
No, I don't.
And then as soon as you show your friends, it's actually not cool at all. And you feel it in your bones.
But the thing is, with your friends, and I do like the concept of friends, but normally you
try it.
Yeah. Whoa. What I also think is that your friend, we're perfectly fine. Okay. I also think that with your friends are a little bit in the same social environment that you are. So I can understand if from one day to the next you show up wearing a 500,000 euro minute repeater, that your friends might think, what the hell is wrong with him? And you would probably have the same
but a good friend.
But normally friends just You don't go from I bought a G-Shock to I bought a Grand Sonnerie. No. So it's also something you kind of gradually grow into, and even with your friends, because you started with this and now Thomas is a tourbillon. Oh, well, okay. Well, yeah, Thomas is okay. He's a bit okay, and then at a certain point you come in. What is that? Oh, it's a chiming watch. You know, it's.
But I think that still doesn't feel healthy.
No,
sorry.
Yeah, it's a little bit that whole thing, right? It's are complications the ultimate social turnoff, right? They just anytime you approach somebody and actually, you know what this does?
Yeah, well,
they're
that's
going to be like,
thing.
all right, well, hey, I gotta go. You know?
No, but you wear your complication in the right social setting. You don't wear your
you bring it up in the right. social setting.
It's.
You're not going to be at the supermarket with the cashier and go, hey, while you're packing those groceries, check this.
No, it doesn't make any sense. No.
Amazing.
So, but I agree with you that complications are not cool.
No,
they're not cool.
No. Keep it to yourself. Keep your complications to yourself.
Yeah,
and use them and enjoy them. But yeah, it's I get what you mean in a way.
But Nacho, what is your favorite complication?
Yeah, so for me, it's like said GMT. I would sort of add onto that, and I would add the fourth kind of complication, which is the non-movement complication, or the freeloading complication, which is the like a dive bezel. So I like a dive GMT. I think that's a nice thing. Obviously, it has nothing to do with the watch's movement, other than that it interfaces with the minute hand to give you a countdown function. I find that actually a dive bezel as a daily use thing is quite nice. I'll regularly find myself cooking pasta, and if I'm wearing a dive watch, I'll set the little
throw it
thing.
In there.
I'll throw the dive watch in with the pasta.
Al dente.
Al dente. No, but it's you, and then you get the little countdown, and otherwise you have to go into your oven and turn on the timer, and then it beeps at you from the other room. No thanks. I'd rather just look at the dive bezel. Does that mean that I end up eating slightly overcooked pasta sometimes? Yes. Well, sometimes
that's the price you pay.
Active reminder. No, but I do actually find it quite useful as a way to sort of track elapsed time, and it is a nice function. And of course, GMT there's like we discussed all that appeal. So whenever a brand does release a watch that has both a dive scale bezel and a GMT function, I get a little excited. That's really something that I enjoy. Seiko gave us a couple just last week, 2 weeks ago for people listening, and those were really cool. And then other than that,
and they make sense, I think.
Yeah. The holiday watch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but I also
like fly to the Maldives, so you take your dive GMT. Yeah, come
Greece,
on, live a little.
Croatia.
Live a little.
Okay, perfect. I think my most complicated watch is my Breitling Aerospace.
Oh, yeah, you're a Breitling collector.
But
I always forget.
No, but that's no. Sorry, that's disqualified.
Doesn't count?
No, it's not a mechanical watch.
True. Yeah. Okay. It has a minute repeater.
Yeah, it has everything.
Okay, fair enough.
Plays your birthday song or something.
No,
but that's
no,
no.
it's
But
not that,
okay, but no. But are there any? Do you have a complication that's like a complete turnoff that you see it and you think no, that is just all wrong. It doesn't make any sense. What?
I could never really care too much about a moonphase.
Oh.
Like
No.
it just. But what it tells me, I don't really care to know.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say
Yeah.
you have to have you have to put your cynicism aside, something which I quite struggle to do.
Especially with the
And,
moon phase being the most romantic of
embrace the
complications.
whimsy of things,
Yeah.
right? And I think that
But it looks nice aesthetically. I do
Yes.
prefer.
Yeah, sometimes.
I do like a moon phase.
the way that a JLC Jaeger puts it into that Master Ultra Thin, that's a lovely thing to look
Yeah.
at. And there I go, yeah, great. Will I ever set it? Absolutely not.
I have a pet peeve about moon phases. If brands put a little smiley face on it.
yeah.
My
The
God. I
old-fashioned
hate that.
way.
No.
That's very Blancpain.
Don't do that.
It looks like there's an emoji on your.
Yeah, but what?
But
What's that?
on
But
your
they don't,
watch.
I don't think they do it anymore.
Sometimes they do.
Do
I
they
think some
still do
brands
it?
do it. Yeah, yeah. Depends on the
Nowadays, you
brand.
all have these. We took a photo of the
Oh
moon.
God,
blah,
that's
blah,
also
blah,
that's also
and
that
then-
also
and
doesn't
then-
work at the
and then-
bar.
No,
that-
that's the bar test.
That's
that
a- that's
fails
a really-
so hard.
yeah.
Actually, this is
Just a little bit of rock from the moon. Oh, really?
It's
Why
a
don't you stand
lunar
over there? Have
meteorite.
your beer
but
alone.
no. But
It's a
I
photorealistic depiction.
Yeah, that's
No.
I don't like the story of the photorealistic picture, but a
Right,
moon
right.
phase indicator with a real piece of lunar meteorite
Yeah.
that I like.
Imagine explaining
cheese
that
in
in a
there.
bar.
Yeah, but I don't explain anything in bars.
No, but it's an imaginary
Lex is just
test.
swinging back martinis.
I have no time to talk.
It is the benefit of having no friends, I guess.
Throwing
but-
back pisco sours like there's no tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Are there any other complications that get a no-go, that get a red card?
Well, it's not technically a complication, but a tourbillon, which isn't a complication, but
Right.
it always sort of annoys me. Like, okay, let's make this watch 4 times as expensive without really adding anything.
But that's the thing, right?
I
The
also don't
tourbillon,
no.
tourbillon comes from the day of pocket watches.
yeah,
right?
no, but I
That's
mean,
the
I
whole
get it.
thing,
I get
so-
the whole romance, and I get
Yeah,
that it's
yeah.
very complicated and it's very interesting, but it always feels a bit like, okay, so we've solved this problem, but let's pretend that we haven't, and then, come on.
But sometimes they're also just very nice to look at. Do you know there's the Breguet extra plat tourbillon with that very straight big tourbillon bridge.
Yeah.
And that's a movement with a peripheral rotor. That is just it's a
It is.
wonderful watch. And I normally don't like holes and dials, but in this case, I think it's a really stunning watch. Although it's also not technically, it's not a complication, but it is a complicated feature. And also the Girard-Perregaux, the tourbillon with the 3 golden bridges. There are some wonderful.
Yeah, that's-
also visual, very exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
I think that there's
watches.
Pointer dates.
pointer date you don't like.
Pointer date, I don't like.
Okay.
Let me try again.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't mind a pointer date.
No, I do like a
I
pointer
think it's
date.
confusing. It's always like, hey, is it a second hand? Is it a GMT? No.
Yeah,
It's a
you got
pointer
a
date.
point- you got a
Oh,
point-
and there's
you got
a
a
ton
pointer
of
date there.
numerals
Yeah.
around the dial.
Yeah.
that
Oh, it's
make no sense.
31. Oh, maybe it's the date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, I don't like those. It's a very unintuitive way of
Yeah.
displaying a date.
I've always had a complicated relationship with perpetual calendars.
Very nice.
I had perpetual calendars in pilot watches.
Oh, right.
I don't really enjoy that.
I mean, if
don't-
you're in a sort of I'm rewatching Lost, right?
Mm.
And if you're
They never really
stranded on an
explain.
island and you had a perpetual calendar, then you'd know what day it was at least. But that's the only case in which a pilot would
okay, yeah,
benefit from a perpetual calendar. is in the,
yeah.
absolute worst case scenario.
So perpetual calendars in pilots' watches, hand-wound perpetual calendars.
Yes.
Very, very
It's
annoying.
commitment, man.
Also, that's why I really enjoy the new Royal Oak perpetual calendar from Audemars Piguet. You also said that the original is the Jumbo a better looking watch than that new perpetual calendar.
Yes.
We have a
Opinions
yes.
may differ.
I think that the perpetual calendar looks great in the Royal Oak, but I also enjoy the fact that you can now actually read the date and the year and everything in a very classically designed perpetual calendar, which was always a bit of a problem. It's just more logical. And having said that, another perpetual calendar I really like is that inline perpetual calendar from
Is it a
Patek.
perpetual or an annual?
No, it's a perpetual.
It's a perpetual? Okay, very nice. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Which that's a very nice bridge to the 1996 invention of the annual calendar by Patek, which is also quite interesting that the annual calendar is a later invention than the perpetual calendar. But it I like the look of an annual calendar, and it's less complicated, but it's also way less complicated, which means it's also less costly. And it's not that difficult to set. So I do. The annual calendar is something I really, really like.
I feel that like what we're seeing here as we talk through this is that there's sort of two tiers of complications. Well, we've said now there's like 4 or 5 or 6 at this point, but there's two styles, right? There's like functional everyday or everyday functionality, i.e. date, chronograph, dive bezel if you consider that one, or potentially even a GMT. And then there's like the horology.
You said it, man.
Yeah. Little Big Lebowski there. Those kind of complications where it really, there's like a certain degree of like whimsy that you have to put into it, right? A moonphase, perpetual calendar, though that kind of is a little bit between the two, but grande sonnerie, that kind of thing. It gets a little bit like you go, does this have like functionality on a day-to-day basis? Maybe not, but it is mechanically fascinating and really interesting and also just incredible that they can put that all in this tiny watch case
exactly
and still keep it make it be beautiful, be functional and everything like that. And I think along the lines of whimsy and just being entirely pointless but incredibly cool, I love Deadbeat Seconds.
Yeah.
That's so great. I remember thinking, or when I first started reading into it, I thought, wait a minute, they've made now a mechanical watch that ticks like a quartz watch on purpose, and it's probably so much more complicated than the gearing system of taking the mainspring into the balance and then having the smooth sweep. And I
it was
find
a
that great.
pre-quartz invention, though.
Right. Okay, interesting.
Said that.
Yeah. But I think that it is just a brilliant thing that you have this mechanically viable way of making it.
It leads to a
seconds.
sort of philosophical question, like how does time pass? Because it's really unnatural to present time as in a digital way, sort of in jumps, in discrete jumps. Because that's not how time passes.
No, it passes like spring drive. That's why I like spring drive.
Yeah.
And that's also I think there's the philosophy also behind spring drive is that it glides like time.
Yeah.
That is nice. I do like
unless you have too many of those pisco sours and then
man.
then
no, that's why I like jumping hours. but all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock.
Oh yeah.
I do like jumping hours, by the way.
Yeah.
Same. It's not a complication.
Oh, which brings me to something that is also a bit odd, and but it's technically it's not a complication because it shows the time, but then in a different way.
Deadbeat Seconds is also not.
No. But the Crazy Hours by Frank Muller.
Oh, right.
That's nice. That's a nice, complicated way of doing something.
We don't see eye to eye today.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. But that's good because I think we're gonna probably wrap it up here. Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks. Thanks for contemplating complications.
I could go on for hours on this topic.
Yeah. Well, we might have to do a part 2,
nice.
maybe where we look more specifically into certain complications.
Also, because what I also think that people should learn more about complications because it really deepens your perspective on watches in general.
Yes.
If you only stick to the surface of the classics and then the dive watches and everything, that I get it. There are some fantastic classics and they deserve the attention and everything, but try and educate yourself with the different types of chronograph mechanisms, the history of grand sonneries.
Also innovations going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Uhrwerk and crayon and stuff.
Absolutely,
like the way they are evolving.
Yeah. So it's I think it's a fascinating world.
Definitely.
And very big world.
Yeah, and it's a part of the appreciation that we have for watches.
Exactly.
I think that it's a major part of it, and yes, it's fascinating to keep time using just mechanical components. But I think like what certain brands have achieved. I mean, I think of this ultra complicated AP concept that came out a couple of years ago now, and as well as the Vacheron pocket watch.
The grapefruit.
Yeah, the grapefruit.
Yeah.
I mean, those are just incredible mechanical
Absolutely.
objects, and like the peak of what horology is able to achieve.
How about Automata?
Automatons? We'll leave that for another. We'll leave that for another
Yeah?
another episode. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's interesting, but yeah, I don't know.
Super
Like,
interesting.
yeah. On the watch, it's one thing I always see in at Watches and Wonders at the Van Cleef booth, where then it's they have one that's like the size of a coffee table.
They still do
And,
that.
and suddenly a lotus flower opens and two birds start flying around, and you have to see it. It's fascinating, but I don't know anybody that owns one of those. It's not my.
Okay. Do we have 2 minutes?
Okay, go on,
2 minutes
go
because
on.
I do think it's fascinating. Also because I saw L'Écrivain, the writer from Jacques Hédreau, and that's from I think that's from the 18th century. So it's a fully dressed doll. It's actually a robot that can actually write. Yeah, and I've seen it in action.
You can code it to write several different
and
words.
If you imagine that they built that.
Yeah.
In that time, with no computers and just no CAD/CAM design and everything, they made that, and then also were able to miniaturize it, and then later put a little especially at Jacques Hédreau, where they have that. I don't think if they do that anymore, but they actually had a watch with a bird that whistled because there was a mini bellow that they could that they used to have a bird whistle. I think that is
the peak of
the peak,
whimsy in terms of complication.
Man, but I have to say that the seeing the writer in action, that was mind blowing. Yeah. Mind blowing. Yeah.
I'm the more time we spend now, the more I start to think of like things that we've missed out on, like astrological kind of things where you have like the spinning celestial bodies and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like I said, maybe this is a topic.
I think we should do one because it's also interesting to know that that the timekeeping started with the big thing. Yeah. So they started with the universe, and only later it trickled down, and because the world became faster and faster and faster, that we're now counting seconds. But at first it was just planets.
Exactly. Oh, there's the moon again.
Yeah, it's getting worse because if you get a zenith chronograph now,
it's tenths of a second.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely revisit the topic, but in the meantime, let's close out with a comment of the week that comes from Philippe Govart, who says, Rockwell C6 safety razor here and Saponifico Varesico soaps. I don't know what any of that means. Do you, Thomas?
Yeah, we asked everyone about their shaving kit.
That's it. Yeah, it was from the episode about buying vintage watches, RJ went on a bit of a tangent about safety razors, shaving with safety razors, and Thomas came out as a safety razor aficionado as well, and
not practicing.
Non-practicing.
I'm a non-practicing safety razor.
The stubblier ones among us are non-practicing. But cool. Hey, thanks for sharing your setup, your rig, and your shaving
rig rundown.
Yeah, rig rundown.
Shaving rig.
Anyway, perfect. Well, thanks guys again, and leave your favorite complications in the comments down below, and of course tune in next week for another episode of Fratello Talks. See you then.